What does it mean to be in control of your mind? Hey guys, welcome back to another video. And I always feel, because there's always this, the saying, take control of your mind, be in control of your emotions, control your mind so it doesn't control you. But what does it actually mean? And the way I've always not always, but the way I've interpreted it is that to be in control of your mind, you can't be a slave to your impulses. You can't do exactly everything that your impulses tell you to do. Instead, you have to know when to engage in your impulses, when to just cut them off and shut them down, and when to, I guess you can say negotiate with them, be like, this is probably not a good idea. I'm not going to do this. And then you just basically figure it out and you make the decision as you're dealing with, the impulse as it stands. And being in control of your mind is basically it. It's just when you have the impulse to do something you don't like to do. For example, if you have the impulse to, for example, let's say there's a cookie on the counter. It's you got a cookie in a paper bag, and you really want that cookie. You'll have the impulse to eat that cookie. But being in control of your mind is saying, that cookie looks really good, but I just had, a bunch of caffeine earlier today. I had some sodas. I had some really, carbohydrate laden food, and I haven't really eaten that great today. And so as a result of that, I probably shouldn't eat that cookie. And so being in control of your mind it's pretty synonymous with discipline. Just making yourself do things that you probably don't want to do every day. And so it could be eating great eating great, like eating healthy, doing exercise, whether it's going to the gym or going for runs. So some kind of cardio or strength training exercise, or making yourself, taking risks, opening yourself up to failure, and continuing to get out of your comfort zone. Because in a way, your impulses are your body's way of trying to push you back into your comfort zone. Because your impulses want you to do what's comfortable to you, which is why you always have the impulse to eat the cookie, or to not go to the gym, or to not do that, not chase that thing you really want to do. Maybe you have a business you're trying to start, but you always have the impulse to be like, no, I shouldn't start, because what happens if I fail? That impulse, remember that impulse and check it at the door, because that impulse is your mind's way of trying to keep you locked in the same old box that you've always been in. Because the unknown is scary. And remember, your brain is not designed to ensure you live a prosperous life. It's to ensure you survive. And so it sees your success and your growth as a human as scary, and in a way a bit dangerous to your survival, because it doesn't know what's on the other side of the success. It doesn't even know what the success is. And so it sees that scary and says, don't do that. It says, don't follow that. Go back. Don't go to the gym. Go back and eat that cookie. Go back and, don't chase that one, or don't pursue that one goal you've been trying to do. whether it's a YouTube channel or some sort of e-commerce business, or maybe it's something simple as like you're growing a garden in your brain's like, don't tend to your garden because what happens if it fails? But what happens if it succeeds? That's like one of the biggest frames I have, at the very least, when it comes to combating fears of failure and I'm trying to find the word or the words. I guess just the impulses that try to keep you chained down for the most part. And so continuing to push your brain to do things that you wouldn't want to do in the moment is how you stay in control of your mind. Because you're telling your mind, which is, your impulses, your emotions, what's comfortable, what's the least path of resistance, the easiest thing that your brain can do today, and not ambitions, but I guess just temptations for the most part. And saying, you're not in control. We're going to do, basically telling your brain, we're going to do the thing that's most important for you, despite what happens, the pain and the hardship that's encountered. And for the most part, the end goal is more important than now. The long-term vision is more important than the short-term pain that you're gonna endure and experience. And so basically the argument is, what's more important? The long-term gratification or the delayed gratification, or the short-term pleasure, which is known as instant gratification. And each and every one of us has to make that decision. What matters more? The long-term gain or the short-term pain? Because whether we realize it or not, every single person makes that decision. It's just whether we do it directly or indirectly. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Anyways, if this resonated with any of you, feel free to give this video a like or a comment or subscribe to my channel. Anyways, you know the drill. I'll see you in the next one. And nonetheless, take care.